Hello, everyone, and welcome on to Branded. This is the podcast that takes you behind the scenes and beyond the brand to give you the clarity and confidence to challenge the status quo and show the fuck up in your own life. I'm your host, Sarah Glenn, and today's guest, Lisa Friedt. She is for sure showing the fuck up in her own life. And this is a really fun episode. I'm super pumped to bring you Lisa. And first off, she's the founder of Build Your Brave. And this is something that she's been doing for herself over the last 3 years or so. And just recently, over the last couple of months, she decided she wanted to invite other people to do the same and kind of teach them and guide them and support them in building their own brave. And so I'm super pumped that you're here. Hi, Lisa.
Hey, Sarah. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really
okay.
appreciate it.
The brave, like showing the fuck up in your life and being brave. I mean, is that not like your motto? Look at your shirt. Show
I got to show my whole shirt. Watching. So be brave, have fun, don't die. That's what you got to do to live a good life.
So good. So if you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube, you can see us, but obviously if you're on Spotify or Apple or Google, you're just listening, but you can join us wherever. So we're going to be talking about brave and brave stuff. And like, what does that even really look like? So first off, I want to kind of ask you, let's just dive right in and break the ice. What's one of the bravest things that you've ever done?
Okay, I love this question, and I like start running through this list of events like, oh yeah, I did this, but one of the things that people comment on most, so if you're listening to the show and you can't see it, I'm bald by choice, and so like, don't worry everybody, I don't have cancer. That's the number one misconception about Lisa. And so I shaved my head. A friend of mine's son had cancer. I had long, voluptuous locks and decided I'm going to shave my head to be in support of my friend's son with cancer. And it went great. I raised a ton of money for it and decided I freaking love it. I love it. It's not any more low maintenance than if you have hair, though. It's like a lot of maintenance to shave it every couple days. But it's one of the things that people comment on most. People have a lot of judgment around it. So like if you were ever thinking about like, oh, I don't want to do this because I don't know what other people will think. Well, shave your head. You'll hear exactly what they think and how a woman should look and how long their hair should be and all those things. But it's one of the biggest things. And on a side note, my second most brave thing that I did recently was I grew my hair for a year.
And after having shaved it for how long?
Oh, like years.
Yeah, so you were
I'm
like,
either
this
bald
is not
or I have a
anymore.
bleach blonde 4 or 5 inch mohawk. Like that's how I run my hair.
Oh my gosh. Isn't that funny though? Like shaving your head first was like, whoa, this is really scary and brave. And then after having done it for so long, it becomes your identity. And I think that's a big message with your Build Your Brave is like, yeah, it's scary at first, but then it's not. And like your shirt says, but did you die? Like, no.
Right. And that's one thing, like if you take anything away from this interview, it's that know that it's going to be scary at first, but then it doesn't. Then it gets easier. And then you're looking for more ways to push yourself out of your comfort zone. And that's what Building Your Brave is all about.
I love it so much. And let me just say, I actually met Lisa relatively recently from the time of this interview. And the moment I met her, like I walked through the door and guess how I met her? Shaving her head. She's over the sink, shaving her head. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. Okay. And I was like, so is this like a first time thing? Like, or is this an always thing? And so I got to hear the story about how she shaves her head and all that. And I was like, wow. And honestly, it was a little bit enlightening to me that it's like not less work, like than having hair.
Yeah, like this, I laugh because my daughter asked me if she could shave her head just the other day. And I was like, and then I'm like, who the hell are you to say, no, you can't shave your head? Right? Like you shave your head. So then I shaved her head and she's rocking that. And I'm like, every Sunday, it'll be like family head shave day.
I love it. The family who stays together, shaves together.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Pride team motto right there.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man, that's so good. Okay, so I wanted to ask you about like, how is it for you how do you identify what brave really means? Because I think a lot of people, just the word in and of itself carries its own pretty heavy connotations. And I think a lot of people gravitate towards it, right? The so-called adrenaline junkies. And a lot of people are like, no, I'm not brave. I don't do brave things because they don't want to feel that sort of sense of anxiety or adrenaline or anything like that. So how do you like identify what brave means to you?
So I'm an adrenaline junkie. Like I love that stuff. Like you want me to run and jump off a mountain, I'm game. I'm doing it. Um, but brave looks different for so many people, and the adrenaline can either be like, oh, that brings me such good joy, or I'm not
Right.
like, or maybe that's not my thing. But it's not all skydiving and paragliding and things like that. And I think that adrenaline junkies like to think that it is. And when doing that, they're avoiding what bravery actually is for them, what it means to show up and be brave for them. Sometimes brave means having that difficult conversation with somebody that you've got a story playing in your mind about how they're going to respond and how you're going to respond. Maybe you're not like that, but sometimes I have to play out a
Yeah.
conversation first, and make sure that my
Mhm.
one-liners are like super quippy and and like, oh no, you didn't. Like there's just all this that's in there. But sometimes it's doing that. Sometimes it's going out with friends. Like you want a sense of community and you make plans on a Monday, and then Friday you think you got to wash your hair, so you bail. Which I have a whole story
Mhm.
around motivation that goes with that, but that's a different thing. But like actually putting yourself out there.
Yeah.
And so for me, bravery looks different from day to day. And I'm challenged to be brave every day because that's what I'm asking people to do.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and the world has a lot of people that talk a lot, but they got to walk the talk. So some of it's like, oh, well, going swimsuit shopping. I'm gonna record going swimsuit shopping when I've been living in this like city life for a bit, so I'm a little softer and fluffier
Yeah.
than I'm used to.
Yeah.
But putting yourself out there, going live streaming people, that's one of people's number one fears that they come to me with. Like, well, how do I
Mhm.
show up on camera? And what if I screw up? Well, good. Then people know like you're not robotic.
Yeah. Yeah, you're
Did that
real.
answer your question?
Absolutely. And yeah, I absolutely agree with you that brave looks different for everybody and it is different day to day too. And it's really insightful to point out too that the adrenaline junkies, like for them, they're like, okay, bravery is jumping out of an airplane, jumping off of a mountain, swimming with sharks. But what actually scares them is perhaps personal relationships, having
Mhm.
intimate conversations, asking someone for help. Like the things that you avoid that you end up taking action on, for me, that's a brave action. So, like, it
Absolutely.
could be showering every morning. It could be meditating. It could be going for a walk. It could be having a difficult conversation, like going to dinner by yourself. Like, there are things that I don't do because I know how uncomfortable I would feel. But as I've stepped into doing some brave shit more and more, I find that some of those other things are easier. Like, anytime, let's say I'm traveling alone, I always feel so awkward sitting and eating by myself because I'm so used to having somebody else always with me when I'm
Mhm.
eating. And it's like such a little thing that how many of us out there would go to the movies on our own, go out to dinner on our own? Like most of us won't. And I
Yeah.
mean, I'm kind of in that boat too, but awareness.
Well, yes, a while ago I'd asked like, "Hey, I got this brave thing to do, and I had it all planned. I was going to do this thing and video it." And the person I was doing it with, she wasn't able to do it. So then I was like, "Shoot." I wasn't like shoot. I was like, "Shit, what the fuck am
Yeah.
I supposed to do that's brave like today?" And so I really had to sit with that to figure out what was going to be brave that I could do. And it's building brave into your everyday that really makes the most transformation in your life, in your confidence, in the way that you show up, and in the people that are magnetized to you, are drawn to you, because you're a person that they want to be around.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually heard a clip today whenever I was putting together some content and I was just kind of going through some stuff and I didn't end up using it. Anyways, doesn't matter. But I heard the sound clip and I think it was Jim Rohn or John Maxwell. I'm not sure, but they were talking about like how if you want others to be attracted to you, and I don't say attracted as in like, oh, she looks hot. No, like attracted as in energetically connected, right? Drawn to you, magnetized. If you want people to be that, then you have to be that. You have to
Mhm.
be magnetizing. You have to be quote unquote attractive, not in the physical sense, but the energetic sense, right? And I think that is exactly what building your brave every single day, taking those actions every single day with intention and saying, okay, what's the brave thing I'm going to do today? And maybe it is going live because you keep saying you're going to do it and then you keep not doing it. So, like, maybe that's the thing. And I guarantee after you do one brave thing, like, isn't it for you? You kind of get that endorphin boost where you're like, ooh, like, I think I need to do that again. Like, and you seek it out more and more.
Absolutely. Like it's a rush. And then you're like, oh, that became easy. What else is there in my life that's hard right now that I could start doing today that next week is going to feel easy, and the growth that's going to happen along the way is going to be so worthwhile. At least that's the way
Mhm.
that I look at it. And my
Yeah.
girlfriend will be like, you want to know the one thing that I can say to you that just makes you just sheet white? I'm like, what's that? Like, what word do you possibly have? She's like, taxes. I'm like, boom, I got a whole story around taxes. And yep, that works. So,
Oh, that's so good. That's so good. Yeah, most people are like, fuck taxes. No. Yeah, no. There's a lot of things, and a good example too of something that's like an everyday kind of brave choice was the other day I made my own pasta sauce.
Mhm.
How frequently do you find yourself choosing the easier route than doing something that you know is better for you and that you'll actually get more enjoyment out of? And that's the whole concept of your build your brave. Why I think it's so genius is because it isn't about going skydiving and swimming with sharks. It's about the micro moments of your life that you avoid. And
Absolutely. And
yeah,
and when you avoid it, like that's a drain. That's an energy drain. It runs and robs from you every day that you avoid it. And you might
yeah,
not think like, oh, that's doing much. But if you look around your house and you've got unfinished projects, or you've got clutter and stuff because maybe you've been putting things off, all that is draining on
yeah.
this vibrant life force that you're meant to be.
Hmm. Yeah. That's a really good point, actually. It really is because I've come to recognize if there's something that presents itself in my life, good or bad, right? Because everything is really neutral. I'm placing whether it's good or bad, on it. But when something presents itself in my life, if I choose to ignore it, it will never go away
Mhm.
because it is meant for me and it's showing up and saying, this is something that needs to be addressed and it's not going to go away until you address it. And that's why I think a lot of us will say things like, "Oh, I just cannot catch a break," because the thing they don't want keeps showing up. Why
Yeah,
do you think it keeps showing up? It's for you. Grab that
absolutely.
shit and do something with it.
I have friends that are like, I pray for patience. I'm like, oh, don't do that. You'll have so many opportunities to practice that if that's what
Yeah.
you're calling in.
Yeah, that's so true. Don't pray for patience, take action on the things that create the impatience, and then before you know it, look at that, you've created more time in your life rather than fixating on not having patience. It's a crazy cycle. Um, So what do you think keeps people from doing those everyday kind of brave things?
So I was looking, and there's about 3, 4 groups of people that really stick out as the ones that I talk to and see and what it is with them. But the two, I'll give you the top two. One is perfectionism. Like they
Mm,
just want to be perfect. And let's face it, when we're doing something brave, chances are we're doing it. And when we start some, we're not good at it,
yeah,
right? And we're not
yeah,
going to be perfect at it. So That's why before I fell into like Build Your Brave, I was always talking about imperfect actions. What gains you the traction? So take imperfect actions. Screw it up. Who gives a fuck? Like,
Yeah.
take what you learned and move on. So perfectionists, they get in their own way, and people pleasers. And
Yeah.
I'm like recovering people pleaser right
Same.
here, and still find myself falling into it. Perfectionism, not so much, because I'm just wired differently than that. But the people pleasing, like worrying about how somebody's going to see them, or what other people are going to think, or what happens if you go against the constructs that somebody else has made up in their mind about you, that really steps in the way of people being brave.
Yeah. Oh, I would say probably more obviously that happens, like on a more frequent basis, and perfectionism too. Like those are good. And it wasn't until probably within the last year that I have come to identify those things as self-sabotage behaviors. And I've never seen them that way in that perspective prior to about, in this last year. I've had an insane amount of personal growth, and it's been very uncomfortable, but it's also been one of the most beautiful things I've ever gotten to experience. And it's brought me into contact with awesome humans like you. So, do brave shit, guys, if you don't get anything else from this this episode. But yeah, man, perfectionism, I went through most of my life as that, like with being competitive gymnast as my background. Like I literally would go to a 4.5 hour practice in order to perfect one thing, two things. Like in 4.5 hours, what would I actually do? I would maybe do 4 different things in those 4 hours, and I would spend an hour perfecting something. And how did that translate into my everyday life? I mean, yeah. So perfectionism has absolutely been something that I have struggled with my whole life, and that I have to tell myself it's okay if it fucks up along the way. Because honestly, if you put something out there faster, like let's say you're working on a project, if you put it out there faster, you can test it faster. You can determine if it's working faster. If you don't do any of these things and take the imperfect action, like Lisa was saying, then you're never actually going to get any result. And it's just going to sit stagnant inside of you on your desk, whatever.
Or you finally get it perfect, you put it out there and nobody wants it, because the energy that came with the idea for it has long since dissipated, and so is your energy towards it,
Yeah.
because you've spent so much time nitpicking and meddling. I have a funny story about it real quick.
Yeah.
Years ago, I think 2014 maybe, I was like, I'm gonna create a mastermind. Like, I know I bring a lot of stuff to the table, and I reached out to a gal. She's a money guru. I'm like, I want to partner with you on this. Let's run with this. And it literally was like a Facebook message, and then let's run with this. And she's like, what are we gonna call it? I'm like, I don't know. The yet to be named mastermind. Like, and
I love that.
And I had it filled by the next day.
Oh, wow.
And it ran. And I remembered, like, just her, she was like, but it's not named and we don't have a branding and our colors. And I'm like, who cares?
Yeah.
We have 10 women in it.
Yeah.
Do you need to stop and go and fix all that stuff first? Or are you ready to get paid? Where are you at?
Yeah. That is such a good story. And that's such a good example. Yes. Don't wait until the thing is all the way complete to find out if anybody even wants it.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and that's why I get, when people come to me for branding stuff and all of that, it's like, on the one hand, I don't want to dive into doing work with somebody that doesn't know what they want, because that's really just my own work ethic. Like, I'm not going to charge somebody for work that in a week they're going to turn around and say, okay, I finally have the clarity. Now let's do it again. Like, that's not something that I feel good about. But at the same time, having conversations with people and letting them know it's okay not to know. It's okay not to have the answer. Go take some action. Come back to me when you have some clarity and you've figured some shit out, and you have had people raise their hand and say, yeah, I do actually want the thing that you're talking about. Because it was one of my coaches along the way had said something like, don't create things that you think people want, create things that people want.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where it starts, is take the imperfect action. Say you have XYZ live and ready to go without having any pieces of it, and see who raises their hand.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm working on a project right now that's more scripted. And I'm like, I don't do scripts. What
Yeah.
do you mean I got to plan this shit out in advance? Like, then you're not going to get me. You're going to
Yeah.
get whatever is up here intellectually stewing around that might be total crap. But it was a brave thing that I had to do earlier this week, was to sit down and actually try and block something out so that it looked
Yeah.
really good. And now they're like, now you got to block it out like, what are they? I can't remember what they call it, but
Like
now I got to
storyboards
draw
or
the
something.
stickmen to do the pictures.
Yeah. Yeah. And see, and that's a great example of, this is something that's totally out of your element. This is a brave thing for you that some people look at it and think, oh, well, writing scripts or writing copy, like whatever, that's not brave and exciting, but it is for you because you're the type that's off the cuff, ready to just talk. I mean, Lisa even did in the form that I had her fill out to be a guest today. She wrote, I like to just be scripted, ask or not be scripted. Ask me anything. And I was like, okay, great. This is great. And so you know that about yourself.
I do. And a few years ago, every year I started challenging myself, and I choose somebody who wants to be challenged with me, and we look at the scariest things I can think of to do. And stand-up comedy was one of the scariest things I could think of doing, because you got to put yourself out there. You got to write a set. Like you can't just get up there and be like, somebody say some funny shit to me, or insult me, okay? And then I'll riff off that. Well, I guess you could, but that wasn't the growth that I wanted to get out of it. But stand-up comedy was the scariest thing I could think of to do. I did it. I got to be on some cool stages with it, which was super awesome. And everybody was like, why didn't you just do improv? You would have been excellent at improv. I'm like, because improv would have been easy.
See? Yeah.
So
Yeah. And that's exactly it. Because I was just thinking that while you were just talking, I was like, oh, yeah, improv would have been so much easier. Just after knowing you, it's like, yeah, improv would have been like nothing. You're like, what is this, a Tuesday at home? Like, this is not challenging me. Yeah, stand up. Oh, even just thinking about it kind of gives me like pit sweat. I cannot like even imagine doing stand up. And public speaking in general, I don't know what it is. It's one of those things that when I do it more and more, it's like no brainer, and it doesn't actually feel scary to me. Like logically, it's not a scary thing. I'm like, oh no, I totally could do that. But I found myself a couple months ago with a speaking gig at a business retreat. Well, it was a women's retreat more than a business retreat, but I found myself with the opportunity to speak at a retreat with like 70 women. And I was like, of course I said yes, but damn, that was a brave thing to do. And I decided, actually, one of the things that helped me be brave in that moment was we all did like sunrise yoga that day. And of course I had packed like some cute little outfit to be on stage with, because the people pleaser in me is like, oh, you're speaking to a group of women, you need to look professional and put together. But the more I thought about it, I was like, what would actually be the brave thing to do? Show up in a way that is actually me. That would be the bravest thing to do. So I showed up speaking on this stage to 70 women wearing yoga pants, like just a workout top, and my hair up in a messy bun.
I love it.
And like barefoot with flip-flops, like that's me. That's who I am. I mean, I like to get done up every now and then, but why? If it's not, I don't know. It was the people pleaser in me was struggling. And I was really nervous when I was up there speaking. I kind of like, once I was done, had this moment of like, I don't really remember anything I just said. Once I got off the stage. Were you like that when you did the stand-up? When you got off, you were like, I don't remember anything.
Well, I actually blamed it on a concussion, because I got off the stage, and just so you guys know, everything is black. They paint everything black off the stage, and there's no lights. So I came off the stage, moved the curtain, walked right into a great big beam, stumbled back onto the stage, and was like, hello again. Fuck. And then walked off just slightly more to the left. So do I remember?
The next time you do stand up, you should call it slightly more to the left.
Yes. My first time doing it, I forgot my joke, like my punchline for a joke.
Mm.
And so my husband, who had watched me practice my set over and over, like actually was like, it's triceraflops. And I'm like, yes, that's it. Ha ha ha. And like carried on
Everyone's
from
like,
there.
you missed it. You missed the boat. Like it's good job.
Yeah,
Good try.
it's called That Joke Just Done Flopped.
Yeah. Oh man, that's so good. Okay, so I want to ask you, what is, if you could like point to one decision in your life that has made the biggest impact on your entrepreneurial journey, what do you think it would be?
Oh, you say that, so I was like, what is going to be the answer to that? What comes up is I was doing a job, and I'd helped take this company from 5 million to $15 million in a really short amount of time. And it was a world-class company. We were building these projects. I couldn't even build it. Like I couldn't read a blueprint. Okay. But I hired people that were smarter than me.
Yeah.
Like that was my goal. Like I'd ask everybody, what job do you want in 5 years from now? Perfect. That'll fit in with what I'm thinking. Come on in. And one day the VP was like, you go do this thing. And I was like, no, I'm asking you for your help because you're one step on the ladder higher than me. I need your help. And he's like, no, like that's what I pay you for. And I had the biggest hissy fit and I quit in the moment. I said to my assistant, pack my shit. I walked around, shook hands of everybody that was on my team. There was over 70 of them at the time. And I left. And then I went into this deep sense of mourning because I had so much of my identity wrapped up into that one position, that one identity, like that job title was me.
Yeah, it was you. Yeah.
And my husband said to me, I think that it's time that you become a life coach. And I was like, a life coach? What's that even? He's like, well, I've heard about it some, and that just sums you up. So I did some research and I decided right then and there that that's what I was going to do. I help people on their journey all the time. I have a way of seeing things differently that maybe most people don't. I can break things down into simple steps. I'm big on the next best step and getting you to take that. And it's been a wild rush ever since. And man, I'm at 12 years in now.
And you really are such a visionary and like innovator. That just is your nature. The wheels are always going in your mind. Like whenever I have conversations with you, I can hear your energy and your excitement, but also you're seeing things ahead that haven't taken place yet, but because they're like, you just see the formulation of all of it happening. So yeah, I think you were definitely trapped in that corporate box, probably.
Yeah, I put myself in it.
Yeah, well, most people do. Most people do. And honestly, that's like one of the largest messages of this podcast. And when I did the rebrand and talking about going behind the scenes and beyond the brand, the whole purpose of that is to identify the human that is now running these businesses, founding these, exciting projects, doing these things that, guess what, was once part of the corporate box. Absolutely. We all start somewhere. We all adhere to the people-pleasing ways of society. But if you choose to challenge the status quo a little bit, you choose to show the fuck up in your life, some pretty exciting things can happen. And I mean, you're a great example of that.
I was just going to say, they can happen faster than you can ever imagine. And at the time that we're recording this, I got some exciting shit that's going down. I can't wait to see where we are when this goes live. So if I had one piece of advice for those of you that are like, yeah, but my vision, or I don't really know, like, I want you to take your vision and supersize it and supersize it and supersize it again. Make it so dang big. And your logical mind might be telling you, don't do that. play smaller, make tangible goals first, that you can really reach out and touch, and then, have a stretch goal, but, make sure that it's something that it's not going to completely just tear you down if you don't hit it. I got to tell you, I live my life like that. Came out of a retreat where Sarah and I met in real life, had an idea, had a drink at the Atlanta airport, let that dream get bigger, flew to Toronto and had it get recognized and somebody speak life into it there. And now it is so dang big. It is like bigger than Oprah big. And I mean like Oprah's wealth and expansion and everything. I'm not talking about her waistline or anything like that. I'm not being offensive in that way. I'm offensive in a lot of ways, not that way. But it's got to be big. And then God steps in, or the universe steps in and is like, now you're finally thinking, let's do this. And just the way.
And that is such a fucking great piece of advice. It really is. Like, take your dream and blow it up. Like you said, because when I saw Lisa in person at this retreat, I don't even think it was 24 hours later. We were all in a chat together and she's like, you guys, that big ass crazy dream, like wild idea that we were just talking about, it's in motion and it's like fucking happening now. And it was less than 24 hours later. It's one of those things that like life is just waiting for you. It's not that, oh man, nothing exciting ever happens to me. Let me just give you some tough love. You're the problem, but you're also the solution.
Absolutely.
Life is just sitting here on the sideline going, come on, when are you going to show up? When are you going to show up? And I feel like for me, that's how it's been over these last 3 years. I finally decided to step up and say, oh, well, I guess I can see things differently. And then the moment I started seeing things differently, I started asking for things differently. I started inviting things into my life. And then immediately, boom, you start seeing all these things start happening. And you're right. It happens very quickly because it is like sitting there, right there next to you, just waiting for you to say, okay, I'm finally ready. And then it rushes in.
Absolutely. It's a little like drinking out of I was like a fire hydrant. That's what it's like. If you guys are used to like the tap at school when you're drinking out of the thing, it's way different. Like when you pray, move your feet fast.
Yeah. And I think that's probably why a lot of people say things like, successful people move fast, they make quick decisions. It's because they have to. It's because they're keeping themselves open to what the universe is flooding in. And when they like what they see, they're grabbing it and going. And so it's not that they're anybody special, that they're anybody different than any other human. It's just that they have the awareness of how big their dreams can really be. And they're allowing the universe to say, yeah, what you got? Bring it on. I'm going to grab it as soon as you show it to me.
Yeah. Show me. I'm here for it. Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, so good. So I want to know, I know you can't spill the beans on everything, but what is next for you? Because entrepreneurship is such a crazy, constant, like experience of growth and evolution. So there's always something on the horizon. What's coming up next for you that we can keep our eyes open for?
Well, I was playing with how could I take retreats to the next level where we can be brave, have fun, don't die. And then I'm like, retreats, that's kind of a smaller audience. So let's just say I'm taking a retreat experience with a much bigger audience.
Ooh,
and
good.
Making it might even show up in your living room. Who knows?
Ooh, you guys. I'm so excited. Like I have the chills. I am so excited because having met Lisa in person, having seen this big, crazy, hairy idea that you're like, I would never even think about taking action on this, and seeing it start to come to life and just everything that's falling into place. And yeah, it's hard shit, but it's also really fun stuff. And it's just so cool to see. And you guys are going to want to be along for this journey. So go into the show notes. Go get connected with Lisa, get into her Build Your Brave community, because that's where the first, that's where she's going to be showing everything first. So if you want to stay up to date on how to build your brave and what doing brave shit really looks like. It's not always jumping out an airplane, like we said. So I'm so thrilled that you have a community like that and that you decided to invite people in and along for the ride, because it is very, very needed.
And I'm so excited to see. Already I see stories of people that have been taking the action in the last couple of months, and what's that doing for their life. I'm so excited I can't even speak over here. uh, and I just know that as we build it bigger, then that ripple effect is going to be even larger. And
Mhm.
I know that I'm not looking back going like, oh, that person I was originally scared to start moving on, taking action on this because of what they might think, like who are they again, in a
Yeah.
short amount of time. So you people pleasers out there, I promise there's a much better place.
Yeah.
And it's with your
Yeah.
brave face on, your brave girl panties.
Brave girl panties. Yeah. I mean, you got the merch, right? You got the shirt, you got the brave girl panties. I love it. Yeah, I'm just so honored that to have you on as the guest today, and it's really, really important to talk about these kinds of things, and I'm super pumped. So you guys head over to the show notes, get connected with Lisa, get into her Build Your Brave community, so you can be the first to know of this like big, crazy, scary shit that's happening. That's just so exciting, and her and I are going to be working together here pretty soon too. So you'll be seeing more of her probably.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Oh, love it. All right, until next time. Bye.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you so much for listening to Branded, the podcast. Please rate and review. And for more information, visit socialjanemedia.com. I'll see you soon.